Hey y'all. So, just a brief moment to go over an op ed in the wild as was requested. So, this is an opinion piece written by the editorial board of the New York Times, specifically the opinion board. Um, and it's kind of what we're going for with Unit 2. So, Unit 2 is structured as an intervention in a conversation, the point being to turn your research into something more argumentative, to argue about it or to inform people about it in a way that translates your research for a general audience. So, Unit 1 had you becoming an expert on a certain topic, doing a lot of research on a topic and writing to a scholarly audience. Unit 2 is all about taking that scholarly knowledge and translating it into something the general public can use. So, this is one example of how someone's done that. So, obviously, from the title, you can see that this op ed is going to talk about gerrymandering. It's something that, based on the readership of the New York Times, we assume that people know about, at least people reading this article. But because this is a two-line title, two-sentence title, it's going to get more nuanced than that. So, specifically, we're going to talk about prisons. So let's just scroll down here and see what they've done past the appealing graphic. And I will link to this in the notes so that you can read the full article for yourself and go over it. So, this first paragraph here, what we would think of as an introduction, for an op ed, we're going to do something called a hook. And for this article, they start with the question, where do you live? Because it's a question that is pretty easy to answer for most readers. But then what they're gonna do is turn that on its head by the time we're done with this first paragraph. Notice that this first paragraph is short. It's to the point. We have three sentences. Sorry. The initial question, how we as a general public answer it, and then how prisoners answer it. That kind of framing kind of twists how we see the issue, kind of pulls us in, so that we want to keep reading. So this is a good thing to keep in mind as you write your own papers, that it's always best to start off with some kind of hook. Sometimes I tell people to use an anecdote. Those are very appropriate for this kind of opening. Anything specific, anything you can do to grab the reader's attention will help here. From there, we move on to this brief explanation of something that is crucial for understanding the topic. Notice that they give us a brief explanation and then um, sorry, to highlight. And then they link us to more specific information. So if you look at this, it's actually going to take us to um, more nuanced information about the law of usual residence. So this is a specific question about the census from PRB. After that, we go on and we get kind of their um, take on that issue. So they're establishing that prisoners count as residing where they're incarcerated, but then they turn around and say that makes no sense. Um, while they're behind bars, they can't vote, nor do they have the attachment. They are counted even though they can't hold. And then we get to the real crux of this piece, the real thesis. It takes a whole paragraph to build it up. Um, they establish the term prison gerrymandering, and then the real thing that they're arguing for. If you go back and look at stasis theory, the stasis that they are operating in is policy, because the thing that we are going for with this op ed is getting rid of prison gerrymandering. So, just to go over some of this again, we start with a hook, we establish our terms, we establish our take on the terms, and then we get to the actual thesis. Notice, if you've been reading Tremble, that these paragraphs fall into that rule about paragraphs not being these long, drawn out things or overly short. And we take 4 paragraphs to get to our thesis. So don't think that this has to stick in the standard 5 paragraph theme model, because it should not. You're writing more nuanced pieces now. If I keep scrolling, we get to kind of a reasoning behind their thesis, which an olive branch to the audience. Here's why this matters. Um, a what if. That's what I'm trying. Oh, so what? Sorry. Hey, remember what I said about this video, including a lot of outtakes? Hey, there it is. So this is kind of a what if. This paragraph about a healthy representative democracy. Uh, I keep saying what if. I mean a so what. The so what factor is why should we care, and they're giving us the reason why we should care. Because a healthy representative democracy is hopefully something all of their readers will be interested in, and so we'll want to keep reading, and we'll be further intrigued. One thing that I will note is that throughout all of this, you will find that same so what factor. You will find the authors playing to a so what factor. Usually, when we write this kind of public writing, we want to keep our audience engaged at every point. Think of what we've talked about with the storytelling of argument. Remember that you can tell an argument the same way you tell a story. It should have a beginning, middle, and an end. You should keep your reader interested throughout. That so what factor is one way to do it. So this paragraph here covers some reasons why this is bad, right? Prison gerrymandering distorts this in 2 ways. Here's another way that it distorts. And here is another way that and here we are. So if these 2 paragraphs are all about the Constitution and a healthy representative democracy, then these paragraphs start to zoom in on identifiers, race, ethnicity, and the split between rural and urban areas in the census. So they explicitly call out prison gerrymandering as taking political power away from racial minorities and transferring it to whites in rural areas. So that is a big thing. And ending the paragraph here on a structural note, ending the paragraph here with this big claim helps us to keep the reader moving through our essay. And then we back it up with some very specific examples. This one, Rhode Island House District. Here's another one in Juneau County, Wisconsin. Again, they're linking to outside sources. They're not spending a lot of time going over all of their research that they've done for this. They link to it so that people can access it if they want to, but they're not spending a lot of their word count going over it. And that's kind of what I'm talking about when I talk about the iceberg theory. You want to include only what is necessary for your audience to understand what you're talking about, not a whole lot of extra. And they keep going, right? So this paragraph discusses the impact that this problem has. Um, Here's some historical research on this problem. Here is some more historical research. And you can kind of see, as you look through this, you kind of see the same thing over and over again. They're just drawing on this research to tell a story about prison gerrymandering, and how it has been bad in the past. So this paragraph says, we're going to be forthright about the benefits of exploiting prisoners for political gain. Notice their word choice of exploiting. They are being very obvious about which side they fall on, and that's fine because they told us at the beginning how they felt about this. And then towards the end, after they've told us the story of why this is bad, they give us their solution to it. Okay. So here's our solution. We change the usual residence law rule. We keep going, and they give us some more. Here's why this is okay. The Supreme Court made a decision that was in line with this. Here's another fact about how it was received. Despite the consensus, they didn't change the rule. and then we go on to places where this has been kind of implemented at the state level. Here's some info about what is currently going on in Congress related to it. And then finally, we get the actual actionable step. So this paper kind of follows this multi-stage model where we get an introduction defining the terms of our argument. We get a section, roughly the first half of the article, covering the stasis before the one we're arguing in this case, quality. We spend half of the paper talking about why this is bad. And then in the second half, we go on to here's what we do about it, culminating in this final we shouldn't wait for Congress. We can do this at the state level. And then that's it. Okay. So that is the broad structure of what an op-ed looks like. Yours might look a little bit different, but it's a good idea to follow the same structure. Hook your audience at the outset, introduce the terms of whatever you're talking about, your subject, give us the stasis before the one you're arguing in, and then evolve your thesis through a final section of the paper, which talks about what you're actually talking about, the actual thesis, and that's it. So take a look at this. It is a solid example of the kind of writing we're looking for. Again, it's probably longer than what we're aiming to do in the class, but it's always helpful to look at the models. So yeah, good luck, everybody. I look forward to reading your drafts, and if you need anything, reach out. Otherwise, I'll see y'all around.